You see this wanker? These wankers have put targets on everyone. Keir Starmer is responsible for the sort of shit that happens there, because he's put a target on every one of us with his smears and lies for telling the...
Keir Starmer's destroying this country, absolutely destroying it. The Labour government should never ever get in power again after this.
6:35 p.m. London. The air shook before Tommy Robinson spoke. 100,000 people filled Whitehall, their chants aimed at one man, Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Floodlights hit Robinson's face as he raised the microphone. "You sold out this country," someone shouted from the crowd. The roar answered back. Bright flags rippled, cameras rolled, and for the first time, Starmer's name wasn't met with applause, but fury. What began as a rally now felt like a national verdict. Reporters called it the largest nationalist rally in a generation. Police scanners crackled with updates. Every balcony, every rooftop, every street corner was filled. For weeks, the country had been simmering with frustration. Tonight, it boiled over. Cameras followed one man pushing through the crowd, surrounded by security. Tommy Robinson, the face of defiance for some, the voice of truth for others. He climbed the stage steps slowly, his expression unreadable. When he reached the mic, the roar was deafening. He stood still for several seconds. The noise didn't fade, it deepened. When he finally spoke, the words were quiet, but cut through the air. "They told us to stay silent. They told us to stay home, but look around. We are Britain, and we are done being ignored." The crowd erupted. Flags waved, drums echoed, fireworks flashed above Parliament. Robinson didn't shout. He didn't need to. His voice carried like a blade through smoke. "They call us far right for loving our country. They call us dangerous for wanting the truth." Each line landed like a strike. Chants answered him. "Tommy, Tommy, Tommy." The rhythm of a football match mixed with the fury of a protest. The speech wasn't chaotic. It was measured, deliberate. He spoke about forgotten families, soldiers sleeping rough, small towns drowning under policy made by people who'd never visited them. "The people who built this country can't afford to live in it anymore," he said. A woman near the front began to cry. A veteran saluted. Someone whispered, "Finally." He paused, looked toward the cameras and said, "We're not extremists. We're patriots. We are the people who pay, who work, who fight, and who stay." The chant came back louder than before. "Traitor to Britain!" From above, drone footage showed a river of humanity stretching down Whitehall, shoulder to shoulder, flags flooding the street. 4 massive screens projected his face across the city center. Behind him, the words, "Unite the Kingdom," glowed in white light. The message was clear. This wasn't just about policy, it was about belonging. Within minutes, the clips began circulating online, TikTok, X, YouTube, millions of views before the speech even ended. Hashtags climbed the global trends. Christ traitor to Britain hit #1. Unite the Kingdom followed. Even before Robinson left the stage, Westminster was already reacting. Commentators scrambled for angles. Some called it rebellion, others called it awakening, but everyone agreed on one thing. This was bigger than a rally. It was a declaration. Near the crowd barriers, reporters struggled to keep up. Microphones caught snatches of emotion. A mother holding a flag said, "We just want our country back." A student from Birmingham added, "We're tired of being told what to think." A veteran in his 60s said nothing, he just pointed at his medals. As night deepened, police held their lines, but stayed still. There was no violence, no disorder, just noise. A sound that rolled like an anthem through the heart of London. Even critics admitted the tone felt different, determined, united. By 8 p.m., the rally had turned into something unplanned. The crowd began singing the national anthem. Thousands of voices, rough and raw, echoing against stone buildings. Some raised candles, others lifted phones, lights glowing like stars. The chant returned one final time. "We are Britain." Every camera captured the same scene. Faces shining in the light of something rare. It wasn't hate, it was hunger, a need to be heard. Social media feeds exploded with clips from every angle. One showed Robinson lowering his mic, looking across the sea of people. Another showed a police officer mouthing the words to the anthem under his breath. And somewhere, inside Downing Street, an aide whispered into a phone, "You should see this." By midnight, the footage had gone global. American anchors called it Britain's moment of reckoning. European outlets compared it to the populist waves of old, but to those who were there, it was simpler. It was a night when ordinary people filled the silence left by power. From mothers and soldiers to students and small business owners, everyone spoke the same truth. He doesn't speak for us. That phrase echoed in every interview, every post, every headline. It was printed on banners, written on walls, chanted through megaphones. He doesn't speak for us. By morning, the footage had reached over 70 million views. Newspapers called it a movement. Officials called it a problem. But to those standing shoulder to shoulder that night, it was something else entirely. It was the moment Britain found its voice again. And as dawn broke over London, the message was already clear. This wasn't the end of a protest. It was the start of a reckoning. The crowd didn't just gather for Tommy Robinson, they gathered for themselves. Because on that night, when the chants shook Whitehall and the flags painted the sky, the country stopped being quiet. The people spoke, and the silence broke. Inside Downing Street, the phones never stopped ringing. Ministers rushed through side entrances, faces pale, voices sharp. The footage from London was playing on every screen. 10 seconds in, the crowd chanted, "Traitor to Britain," and the Prime Minister froze. Aides exchanged looks. No one spoke first. Then the shouting began. Advisors urged calm. "Ignore it," one said. "It'll pass by morning." But it didn't. Overnight polling showed Labour collapsing by 10 points. Every region, every demographic, red flashing numbers across dashboards. The press office drafted a statement, then deleted it before release. They knew one word could pour fuel on an already raging fire. Leaked memos hit the inboxes of reporters before dawn. Inside, Starmer was described as furious, calling Robinson a dangerous agitator exploiting national pain. But others in the room disagreed. One senior MP reportedly snapped back, "He's not exploiting it, he's channeling it. And you just made him a hero, aight?" Arguments broke out between ministers. The Home Office wanted police statements condemning the rally. Defense warned that public hostility would only grow. "You can't shout patriotism down," one aide said quietly. By 2 a.m., every department had been pulled into the same emergency call. The phrase repeated across the line, "Contain the narrative." But containment had already failed. Clips of the rally played on loop across social platforms. News anchors called it William Moment 2.0. Analysts compared it to the populist surge that shook Britain years ago. This isn't a fringe movement anymore. One commentator warned on live TV. "It's a storm, and it's spreading." The next morning, Westminster woke to headlines that read like history. Britain speaks. The new voice of the street. Starmer's crisis of silence. Pollsters called it the fastest opinion collapse since the pandemic. Every network replayed Robinson's line, "They call us far right for loving our country," as if it were a prophecy. Inside the Labour HQ, panic blurred into exhaustion. Meetings ended with no decisions. One MP whispered to another, "He's lost the street, and once you lose the street, you lose the country." Then the defections began. It started with voices online, Muslim, Sikh, and immigrant supporters who had once voted Labour. A video from Leicester went viral overnight. A local imam spoke directly to camera. "I voted for Labour because I believed in fairness. What I see now is division. Even I can't stand Starmer anymore." The clip hit 1 million views before breakfast. Soon others followed. Taxi drivers, teachers, retired officers, second-generation citizens all recording the same line. "He doesn't speak for us." The tone was calm, not hateful. That's what made it powerful. In Manchester, a small business owner filmed himself outside his shop. "My parents came here 50 years ago," he said. "They worked, they built, they respected this land, and now we're told to shut up if we love it too much." Unite, the Kingdom and Chinar Britain Speaks merged online. Within hours, they became the biggest joint movement since Brexit. TikTok stitched clips from veterans and young students side by side. The message was simple: pride isn't extremism. Even neutral journalists began to shift tone. One headline in the Herald read, "Tommy Robinson just redefined the conversation." BBC anchors avoided using the word riot. ITV called it a national moment. Piers Morgan replayed the chant and said, "You don't have to agree with him to admit the message is real." By nightfall, the story had turned into a referendum on free speech itself. Robinson's critics couldn't erase the footage, his supporters didn't need to argue. The images did the talking: mothers waving flags, veterans praying, teenagers chanting Britain forever. For the first time in years, unity looked louder than division. The government, however, looked smaller by the hour. At 10 Downing Street, Starmer's press secretary faced the cameras with a forced smile. The Prime Minister remains focused on stability," she said. Reporters shouted questions, none were answered. Inside, Starmer paced between windows. Advisors told him to wait for the outrage to fade, but it wasn't fading. It was multiplying. In pubs, on buses, and classrooms, everyone had seen the same footage. People who never agreed on politics now agreed on one thing: the government had stopped listening. Then came the moment that sealed it. A crowd of veterans marched in silence outside Parliament. No chants, no banners, just medals on their chests. When police moved to block them, officers hesitated, then saluted. Cameras caught it instantly. The salute seen around the world. That image flooded every network. Commentators called it the turning point of the decade. The same officers once told to contain the protests were now standing with them. By midnight, Westminster looked less like the seat of power and more like a fortress under siege. News anchors whispered words once unthinkable: collapse, revolt, reset, and then came the quiet. At dawn, the rain began. Streets shimmered under pale light. Flags hung damp but unbroken. The crowds were gone, but their echo lingered. Across the nation, screens flickered with replayed footage. Robinson's final line looped endlessly: "We are the storm." Broadcasters called it defiance. Supporters called it truth. Starmer's silence became the headline. Each hour he stayed quiet, the pressure grew. Every word unsaid became another sign of weakness. The people wanted answers, but none came. By midday, the same networks that once dismissed Robinson were calling him the man who changed the tone of Britain. Political analysts debated whether Labour could recover at all. Reform Party donations spiked. Conservative MPs demanded snap elections. For millions watching, the symbolism was clear. The power balance had shifted, and as night returned, the same line appeared on every independent outlet, every podcast, every post. The battle for Britain's voice has begun. The camera pans over silent streets, flags catching the glow of streetlights. The voiceover closes with the rhythm of a heartbeat. This isn't over. This is just the beginning. Stay with us, because the next roar is already rising.